I'm Kevin Mims with the Invading Sea, Florida-wide media collaborative that reports on climate change in the state. As part of that effort, we started The Business of Climate Change, a weekly interview with businessmen and women whose companies are either affected by the warming climate or address climate challenges. Today's conversation is with Charlie Gray, Chair Emeritus of the law firm GrayRobinson and board member of the Orlando Land Trust. Charlie, thanks for talking with us today.
Sure, Kevin, my pleasure.
So, Charlie, tell me about what you have been seeing lately in the area of environmental law as it relates to climate change in Florida.
Well, the things that are going on, of course, are pretty obvious as far as the things in our climate that are changing. The big fires out in California, the terrific storms that are getting a lot more, maybe not more numerous, but although they are numerous, but a lot stronger. And the rising seas that mainly South Florida is dealing with right now, but all of Florida is going to deal with the longest coastline of any state in the country. We've even got recognition in the legislature. The Speaker of the House, Simpson, is setting aside $100 million to try to deal with rising seas. But you don't have to be a lawyer to see what's happening with the climate, with the melting ice caps. And you know that when they're melting, the seas are going to rise. So we have scientists that are predicting how high they're going to rise. And it will affect not just the coastline, but also inland rivers. St. John's River is certainly going to be affected. So what I think that we are seeing what's happening, and there are going to be a lot more pieces of legislation devoted to accommodating what is coming. Of course, we're all aware that we got to switch to renewable energy to stop the use of fossil fuels that continue to change our atmosphere, and that is causing all the problems. And if we don't do something more rapidly than we've even planned, I'm afraid we're in real trouble. I think that, I personally, my wife and I put the solar panels on our roof, and recommend that anyone do that. Volusia County is working on paying for or putting solar panels on people's roofs with no cost to them up front, which is what we really need to do. Further incentivize the use of solar panels, incentivize the development and construction of electric cars. My wife drives a hybrid, which gets about 40 miles to the gallon, and that's good. Hopefully, we'll be able to move into all electric. My car is not electric. It's a Subaru Outback that is not very old. So I've been thinking about just trying to trade into either an electric or at least a hybrid. But I think we all have to be conscious of whatever we can personally do to reduce our carbon footprint. There's a lot going on right now as far as carbon credits that I think is good. Business has to change over. I think that government has to incentivize business to change over more than they're doing now. So that's in a nutshell what I see is going on and what I think needs to go on. Uh, so many things are happening to our planet, and I know John Young, who's no longer with us, but was the astronaut's astronaut, and we developed a John Young History Maker Award ceremony annually to present to outstanding Floridians that award. The first was, of course, to him. And I remember when Channel 13 was interviewing him, and they said, "Why are you so interested in going to Mars or other planets?" He says, "We've got to find another planet because we're killing this one." And I thought that was so prophetic because that was maybe 10 years ago. But I think we all, those of us that are aware, and I think most everybody is, that we are doing that. We're killing our planet. And, you know, when you look at the diseases that are out there, Ebola didn't really go very far because it killed its host. Uh, if if you think we're going to continue to have civilization in some form on this planet without doing anything to stop how we're killing it, you got another thing coming. So I think everybody's got to join in, all the countries, everybody. We got to do everything we can to stop what's going on. We've got potential or upcoming famines as a result of climate change. Areas of the country or the world that have been producing food are either going to be inundated or so arid that they won't be able to produce food. So people are going to move, and they're going to go wherever they can survive. And we think we're an island, but we're really not. People are going to go where they can survive. And so that's going to be true all over the world. And it's going to cause a lot of conflict. And it may cause conflicts that lead us into things that we don't ever want to go to. But so it all boils down to one thing, and that is we've got to accommodate and do everything we can to stop the climate change. And until we can stop it, we have to accommodate it. But we have to do everything we can. So that's just the way I see it.
So, Charlie, over the years, you've had various roles in furthering economic development in the state. And your areas of legal expertise include environmental and real estate law. Now, what kind of climate-related changes have you seen during your career?
Well, I think the first was to recognize that we have to set back from the ocean far enough so that we don't destroy our dunes, which is a protection against the ocean coming in on us. But that was a long time ago, and we've continued to develop setbacks, and that's going to continue because we have got to, as science can predict how far it's going to, the seas rising are going to affect our state and our country. We're going to have more laws that are saying that you can't build here. You've got to build somewhere else on higher ground. They're restructuring right now. They have been the floodplain laws that, 100-year flood line is no longer valid because we found out that things don't always stay the same. And certainly with climate change, they're not staying the same.
So, what trends do you expect to see in the future?
I expect to see a very strong effort to go to renewable energy. clean energy. And I think that the faster we can go there, the better it's going to be for our future. So I think that there's going to be. Then we've got to change how we charge for the use of roads, because the gasoline tax is no longer a viable source. If you're going to electricity, you're going to have to go to some other function, some other measure, either your mileage or electrical use. I'm not sure how it's going to be handled, but we know that we've got to, if you see something and you know something, you got to do something about it. And right now we see it, we know it, and we're not doing anything about it. So we've got to prepare for that. So I see legislation that will start moving from gasoline tax, which is the tax that they're using even for intermodal and transportation. We've got to go to a different source to be able to provide a way for people to get from one place to the other. I think we're going to see some high-speed rail, which is amazing to me that we don't have it. We haven't had it. The rest of the world has. Anybody who's traveled knows that, Japan, France, Germany, all the countries like that, Spain, China. I've ridden a lot of the high-speed rails, and it's just amazing. And the fact that we don't have it is because there's so many people who have not traveled that don't. They think we have the latest technology. Well, we know about it, but we don't have it for people to use. I represented a company that bid for the high-speed rail 10 years ago, or about that far long ago. And I was very disappointed when at the last minute, after everything was set up, they had all the plans for how it was going to go down I-4 from Orlando to Tampa. And the federal government had set aside $2.8 billion for our project. And at the last minute, the governor yanked it and said, we don't want any federal money. Just like that. And it wasn't so much that we needed the high-speed rail between here and Tampa. What really was important was that so many of our people in the United States come to Disney and to Universal. I mean, it is universal that they all come here. And they would have taken that ride as a novelty and would have understood the entire reason we need high-speed rail. Right now, they haven't seen it. And you got to sell the public, when you're talking about financing such a heavy project. And we missed our chance in that one instance to show most of the United States what high-speed rail is. And they could then understand why we need it. We need to be able to get from Miami to Washington, D.C. We need to get across the country, from California to Florida or from California to New York. And we can't do that. They can do it in China. They can do it in Spain. They can do it in France. They can do it in Germany. We can't. They can do it in Japan. It's just amazing to me that we're so far behind. And it's because the people in our country haven't demanded it, because they really don't know enough about it. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got off on a different subject, but all these things are important. The more you have intermodal traffic, the less you're going to have greenhouse gases. And I'm sure we'll go to to electric mobility. That's what the Chinese are doing with their intermodal, I mean, their high-speed rail, and all the high-speed rails are electric. So I guess it boils down to the people in the United States have got to wake up. We've got to have a program to educate them, to show them what has to be done in order to beat this climate change. And it involves transportation. It involves so much of the uses we have with fossil fuels, and we have to, change over to renewable energy. I think when we change over, as we change over, there are going to be a lot of jobs created. And when that happens, I think people will understand that even though you don't have an oil well to attend to, you've got solar panels to attend to or windmills to attend to. The jobs will be there. And just the same is for manufacturing. Cars are going to be manufactured. And if they're electric, and if we're going to all electric, more cars will be manufactured than would have been manufactured with just gas burners, because you have to change over. Excuse me.
So, Charlie, how can individuals and businesses prepare themselves for the challenges ahead?
Well, some years ago, we sent around to all the lawyers in my firm. My then CEO, who succeeded me, sent a little book around. The name of the book was "Who Moved My Cheese?" And it was simply, you got to be flexible. You got to anticipate change, and you got to be able to accommodate change, and change is coming. I think Bob, I don't know what was the name of the singer that came out with "The Times They Are Changing." That was so prophetic, and it's true today, and it'll be true into the future. So I think we have to prepare ourselves and understand how we're going to have to change, and that we are going to have to change is start thinking ahead as to what's happening. I know this COVID situation has caused kind of a permanent thing, and that is we're all realizing that we can work from home. Not everybody, but a great many can work from home, and you're going to find a lot of vacant offices now, I think. Everybody will be changing to reducing the size of their physical footprint with people working at home. There's so many things are changing. We've got to keep our eyes open to see what is happening. The internet is going to be more and more important. Security in the internet is going to be more and more important. We've seen what's happened now with Russia invading our infrastructure. So it's it's going to be it is kind of scary, but it's certainly a world that we've got to do a lot of different things to prepare for. So anyway, that's I hate to go on and on, but I just think being able to see into the future as far as you can and prepare for it is what we've all got to do.
Got it. So what can the Florida legislature do to help?
Well, one thing that I think that the Speaker of the House, Simpson, is doing, he's going to set aside $100 million to work on sea level rising. That is not enough. Uh, I think that the Florida legislature can do what they can to incentivize uh, solar panels on roofs, uh, to pass legislation that incentivizes uh, businesses and homes to better insulate, so that they're not using so much electricity to heat and cool, particularly in Florida, because if you don't have it cool, you're in trouble. But if you're insulated, you don't use it nearly as much energy. So I think to the extent that the legislature can bring that thought along, at the same time, we're attending to other environmental disasters that are looking at us. The septic tanks in our springs and our aquifer and things like that, and Florida forever. So we try to set aside the green spaces that will that will absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. We're eating up a lot of our environment that way. So the Florida Forever, to be able to buy land or at least put it into conservation, we all have to pay for that. You can't expect the private owner to give his land for the rest of us. So you're going to have to pay. You're going to have more revenue to be able to do that. And right now, we've reduced our taxes to the point where we are not able to accommodate the things we need here in the state. I think we've reached the marrow of the bone, and so to do the things we need to do, you're going to need more revenue. There's a balance, and we can kill ourselves by increasing revenue to a point beyond where it ought to be. But right now, I think we've now gotten ourselves in a situation where we don't have enough revenue to do the things we really need to do to protect for the future. And I'm really worried about that because, people in government, they're elected, and everybody wants lower taxes. Nobody wants to have a tax increase. So naturally, the elected officials want to be the ones to reduce taxes further. And that's been happening now for, 10, 15, 20 years. Every time we can reduce taxes, we have. And in many cases, they're warranted. But we're at a point now where we're hurting. COVID has put us in a deficit. There's talk about finally passing legislation that will require internet sales outside of Florida to our internet sales to pay the sales tax. If the sales are inside of Florida, they pay them. But if they're outside of Florida, they don't pay them. And that includes, some of the big internet sales organizations. So we have been ignoring a tax that is imposed. It's there. We just haven't been collecting it. Now we're going to have legislation that requires it to be collected. And there's talk now of saying, but we got to keep it revenue neutral. I mean, we'll have to reduce taxes somewhere else to be able to. And I think that's not a good way to think about it. that's revenue we've lost all these years. And this is revenue that we're entitled to, and we've got a deficit now. And rather than try to plug some of that hole with this revenue that we should have been getting all along, here's talk about revenue being revenue neutral by reducing taxes further. And I think that's absolutely wrong. So if we take some of that, well, right now we don't have enough revenue to fund a Florida Forever type acquisition of land that we need to. Excuse me, but hopefully the legislature will be smart enough to know that we've got to use those funds for at least to plug our as much as we can our deficit hole, because the deficit is going to be there for a while. It's not a one-year deal.
Charlie, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Enjoyed talking with you.